Okay, let's talk about the House versus NCAA settlement. It's probably going to come up for approval next week, and it will likely get approved. The judge has already indicated favorable disposition toward approving it pretty much as proposed with some margin changes. Okay, but since it's going to fundamentally change the way we see things that are happening in the next few years, we probably need to understand it. So let's talk about it. So what are the key features? First, the key feature that we hear all the conversation about is the rev share, where the university will now have the ability to directly compensate the athlete. The rev share has a cap of $20.5 million initially, but that will probably grow to up to $30 million over the next several years. Okay? Now, the cap of the $20.5 million has to come from certain sources. So up to 22% of the dollars that the university raises associated with media rights, ticket sales, sponsorship rights, royalty rights, bowl games, and conference distributions. So add all that money up, 22% of it can be allocated towards the compensation of players directly by the university. Okay? Now, where this gets interesting is there are some universities through their collectives that are already spending more than $20.5 million. Case in point, Ohio State. Widely published, they spent $21 million on their football team last year. Set aside all the other sports, just on football. So you can already predict that shenanigans are going to happen when folks are already over the limit before we even get started. But that's the first feature. Okay. What's the second feature? Roster limits instead of scholarship limits. So right now, each school is allocated a certain number of scholarships that it can offer to athletes in certain sports. Okay. But there's no limit on how many athletes it can accept on the team. So here's the example. Football currently has 85 scholarships. Okay. But you know, there are plenty of walk-ons. You will see teams with 10, 20, 30, even more walk-ons. Okay? There will no longer be a pure scholarship limit. The roster limit will be 105 athletes. So in many institutions, that means that they will offer 20 more football scholarships, but they will have no more walk-ons. Walk-ons will be gone. Okay? Now, every institution won't be able to fund an additional 20 scholarships, but in no event will they be able to have an additional, have more than 105 athletes on the team. Okay, so it's going to play out differently for different schools based on their ability to fund those additional scholarships or not, but those will be the roster limits. Okay, so that's the second feature. What's the third feature? Okay, so the $20.5 million is the revenue share that the university or can fund to pay athletes based on whatever criteria they deem appropriate for the revenue share, okay? But there is no cap on what the athlete is able to generate from a name, image, and likeness perspective, dollars associated with their brand. No limit, okay? So this is where we're going to get some shenanigans. There is a third-party clearinghouse, and I believe that is Deloitte, that is charged with vetting every NIL opportunity that is greater than $600 to determine whether it is in fact a fair market value deal. And if it is, fine. If it's not, it will get rejected. Folks are already talking out loud about how to game that system, how you characterize those NIL payments to the third-party clearinghouse so they do not get caught up in the noise and they go through. So you understand, it's already shenanigans. They're already talking about it out loud. So we're going to see how that plays out, because certain schools who are already over the 20.5 have to figure out how they're going to have what they're calling above the cap revenue to compensate athletes. Okay? So there's that. Now, some sources are suggesting that there's going to be a huge gap between Power 4 schools and Group of 5 schools in terms of the revenue that's going to be available to compensate the athletes. So here's some quick numbers. It is anticipated that the average Power 4 school will have $18.2 million associated with that bucket of money that I just told you about, those various sponsorship rights, etc. Okay, to distribute. 18.2 million, the average school. Okay, they're saying that the average group of 5 school will have $2.5 million to distribute to athletes. Okay, that's a 7x difference. Power 4, 18.2, group of 5, 2.5. Now, also remember, there are schools that are neither Power 4 nor group of 5 that are considered D1. Okay, those schools they think will generate up to $850,000. Okay, so Power 4, 18.2, group of 5, 2.5, everybody else, 850K. 18.2 million, 2.5 million, 850K. Okay. Now, understand that the revenue that can be used to fund that 20.5 million cannot come from philanthropy. Okay, it cannot be a repurposing of dollars that are raised from athletic departments, from alumni, boosters, others. It's got to come from the revenue sources that we just discussed. Okay, so that above the cap number is going to be where all the shenanigans and interesting things are going to lie. Okay, so that's it for this for now. We will see